Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Wild Wild Podcast. I am your slightly too warm host, Adrian Smith, and I am joined by somebody who seems to not care one bit how hot it is, Rod Barnett.
Oh, I wouldn't say that. It's even hotter here than it is where you are. Tennessee is at best swampland in the month of June.
Is it quite far south? My knowledge of where all the states are is pretty poor.
It's not as there are definitely a few states that are further south, but the problem that we're having, especially this year, is that it's always warm here during the summer. We're talking 80s are the norm, but we're getting an extraordinary amount of rain, which keeps it exceedingly humid, which is making you feel as if there's a point at which someone will hopefully turn off the oven because we're done. But yeah.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Wild Wild Podcast. I am your slightly too warm host, Adrian Smith, and I am joined by somebody who seems to not care one bit how hot it is, Rod Barnett.
Oh, I wouldn't say that. It's even hotter here than it is where you are. Tennessee is at best swampland in the month of June.
Is it quite far south? My knowledge of where all the states are is pretty poor.
It's not as there are definitely a few states that are further south, but the problem that we're having, especially this year, is that it's always warm here during the summer. We're talking 80s are the norm, but we're getting an extraordinary amount of rain, which keeps it exceedingly humid, which is making you feel as if there's a point at which someone will hopefully turn off the oven because we're done. But yeah.
Wow, here we are, two middle-aged men complaining about the weather.
I would have said whining, but yeah, we're definitely
welcome to the podcast. So got quite a lot of catching up to do. It's been a little while, it feels like. I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 weeks. I don't know. Time flies these days. But the first thing to mention is that Raro Video have announced their release of The Medium, or Il Medium, which is a very obscure Italian kind of ghost story from 1980 that we have provided the commentary track for.
And it was scary to find out that our commentary track is the only extra. I was, I was hoping for some bolstered interview, something else on there to make people to give them some kind of insight into the film. But we are it.
Exactly, no pressure.
None.
So it means if any reviews are written, it'll just be about us.
Yeah, so just be people picking apart our idiosyncratic way of speaking and the fact that we didn't touch on whichever subject they think we should have. So it's gonna be fun.
Well, that film is so obscure. There's hardly anything written about it anywhere. True. So I think people will be quite pleased that we've talked about it at all. I think I said this on Facebook. We are the only film historians who were brave enough to say yes to The Medium.
Maybe so. I'm just glad that you were actually able to speak to one of the actors involved in the film. That helps a lot.
Oh yeah, that did help. Yeah, Sherry Buchanan. Apparently, she is going to be a guest at a film festival that happens in is it in August? I don't know when they do it actually. Called Dark Fest, which is done by the Dark Side magazine
Oh,
here in the UK. So at some point, over, I think maybe August or September, Sherry Buchanan is coming to London to appear at that, which is quite cool.
very nice.
I'm not sure if she's done events before. She hardly ever does interviews, so quite a good scoop. But yeah, I spoke to her. She was very nice, and she gave us some good info, which meant we were able to piece together various clues, and I think we came up with some good stuff. So anyway, that is out. I should have checked. I think it's out in July.
Yeah, I think it's a few weeks away from me.
Yeah, July or August, anyway, from Raro Video. So that's quite cool. But Rod, there's a big, much more exciting for you Blu-ray announcement just come out this week. Do you want to tell everybody about that?
Yeah, sure. What was it again? I'm lost. I really don't remember. Oh my!
It was the very first ever episode of the Nashicast, I believe.
Yes. Now, sorry, you have found a way to remind me because my brain is scattered. But yes, Frankenstein's Bloody Terror, also known as The Mark of the Wolfman, the very first Valdemar Daninsky werewolf film, written by and starring Paul Naschy. The 3D version is coming out on Blu-ray. This is the first time the film's come out on Blu-ray. Definitely the first time in 3D. And if you don't have a 3D television, or if you don't want to watch a film with those red-blue anaglyph glasses on, don't worry. It also has a flat version, so you can watch it like a normal human being as well. But the good news is that it's coming to Blu-ray, and even better news is it's packed with 2 commentary tracks. They got Tim Lucas to do one, which is always great, and then they asked Troy Howarth, Troy Gwynn, and myself to contribute a second one. So you've got so you'll have to watch the film 3 times, folks. I'm sorry, but you will.
Yeah.
And I'm not.
5 times, because you'll want to try both 3D versions.
Oh, I hadn't thought of that.
And the flat version. So can you watch it in 3D with your commentary? Is it like Rod coming at you?
Well, I doubt that the audio will be coming at you any more than anything else, unless you really crank it up far too high. But I mean, you do with it what you wish. Yeah,
it'd be good, wouldn't it, if they could do your commentary track in Dolby Atmos?
That would be terrifying. Any enhancement of my voice would be a truly disastrous feature. That's not a good idea, folks.
But yeah, so who's putting that one out?
That one is coming from Kino. It's going to be, well, it is exciting at all, because this means we're finally winnowing down the missing Paul Naschy films, the ones that are still necessary to get a release, so that we've got all of them available easily. But yeah, it's Kino Lorber that's putting out the Blu-ray. With this release, that means here in the States, we're only missing a couple, depending on how you look at it. We still don't have Curse of the Devil, which I haven't heard anything about that one coming out anytime soon. So it's not as if I'm hiding information there, I promise. And then with the release of that one, we'll be close to having, if we ever get Curse of the Devil, we'll be close to having the whole run that I'm a big fan of. Although I do have some real affection for the 1996 film Lycanthropo, the Moonlight Murders, which is a very interesting take on post heart attack take on a kind of a middle-aged man who becomes a lycanthrope. It's another Valdemar Daninsky film. Not one of the best, but certainly worth checking out. I don't know if that one's ever going to come out on Blu-ray either, but man, it's been a long haul from 2015 to now. Finally, we're getting one of the last really big ones.
And do you think it's just rights issues that slowed it down, or lack of interest, or?
Oh well, from what I understand,
elements?
the desire to get this particular film out in 3D was the big concern, because it was trying to find a decent source print to do a release of it. The 35 millimeter elements that they were able to get their hands on before weren't really good enough to do a 4K scan, and so they had to do a lot of restoration. It was time consuming. There was a search for better prints that was keeping everybody on away from doing anything with it until they thought, until they felt they could put something out there that was going to look as good as possible. Because the thing is, it's a beautifully photographed film. It's just gorgeous. It's drenched in a lot of what I would refer to as kind of bava color gels. And there's a lot of colorful lighting within the frame when we're going through the monster battles and the transformations and stuff like that. So getting it to look right was a massive concern, and especially finding decent 3D elements was, that's what made this one take as long as it has.
Very cool. Yeah, so well done. That's a good one to be involved with. I think that's probably all the announcements there are for us in terms of stuff that's coming out.
It's all the ones we can, all the ones that we can talk about so far. Yeah.
There's, I think everything we've done now has been announced, right? Because the Medium was the last one we recorded. So I think they're all out there now.
There's one more that hasn't been announced yet.
That we've already recorded.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's very close to being announced. I think. It's
you're right. Severin, no. Oh well, come on. I think we can probably say now, can't we? Because they've put out a trailer.
We could. Sure. Why not? Why not?
Well, let's just say, Severin. I'd forgotten about that. You're right. We did so many this year, and another one in a couple of weeks. Severin trailed the new Danza Macabre Volume 4 box set. Mm-hmm. And so, of course, the speculation on the internet has been rife as to whether Rod and Adrian would be doing a commentary. That's what people really wanted to know.
Oh, yes. The press are beating it on my door, wanting information.
And they haven't actually said which films are on the set.
No.
But if you watch the trailer, you can probably work out if you know your Italian Gothics. So the last set, Volume 3, was Spanish. This one is Italian again. As far as I can tell. And so I'll just say we're in the box set, so you can all relax. But I won't say which film. We'll leave that to be a little exciting bonus when that comes. But so before we get to the film, we are going to get to the film.
I promise.
I wanted to talk about my weekend, Rod.
Oh.
Because I know that my weekend will have made you extremely jealous if you saw any of my photos on Facebook.
Were you sitting by the beach? Is that what you were doing?
I was sitting in a sports hall in Worcester that was freezing cold because they couldn't turn the aircon off, and it was really hot outside and really cold inside. But I was at the event called Weird Worcester, which was organised by Treasured Films and Eugenio Ercoloni. It was amazing. So I was going to go just as a guest, because the list of people they'd got coming to this thing was amazing. And then about 3 days before the event, I ended up being recruited to be a volunteer. So my job, when I arrived on Saturday morning, my job was going to be getting guests from the signings to the Q&As and to the photo shoots, right? That was the job they wanted me to do. But then at 5 to 10, just as the doors were about to open, Margie Newton, who was sitting behind a table, was asking where her assistant was because other people had people sitting with them. Like Fred, so Fred Williamson had brought his wife. Enzo Castellari had got his son Andre with him. And Sergio Stivoletti had got his son with him. Like most people had somebody sitting with them. And Margie was on her own and she was a bit nervous because she doesn't speak much English. And it was her first ever convention. So Tom, one of the organisers, just said to me, "Oh, can you just go and sit with Margie?" I'm like, okay. And I ended up becoming Margie's personal assistant for the entire weekend. and now we're new best friends.
Well, there you go.
I had the best weekend ever. So let me tell you who was there. And also a bonus for being a volunteer at this thing was that you could get all the autographs you wanted for free, as long as people were willing to give them. So I have come home having hung out with, had dinner with, and so on, Enzo Castellari, Fred Williamson, Alessandro Capone, the director of A Witch Story, Sylvia Colatina, the little girl from The Great Alligator and The House by the Cemetery. Katrina, I was sat next to Katrina McCall for the whole weekend. She was on one side with a massive queue. She was the busiest person.
Well, I can imagine why, yeah.
Man, Katrina McCall must have signed like 1,000 autographs that weekend. So I made friends with her too. She was very nice. Now, this was the first ever convention in the UK that Carl York came over for. So Carl York and Francesca Chiardi, the doomed documentarians from Cannibal Holocaust,
Wow.
they were there. Sergio Martino was there. Sergio Stivoletti, who I mentioned, a special effects guy. I had dinner. We went out for dinner, and he ended up telling me and Tom the story of Spider Labyrinth and all the special effects he did for Spider Labyrinth, which was very cool because I've actually seen that one.
Oh, I love that. I love that film. Yeah.
Yeah, Lamberto Bava, Gioretta from Demons.
Oh yeah.
And Howard Ross, the total legend that is Howard Ross. He's hilarious. He must be about 90. He kept singing all the time. I managed to record little bits of him. He would just start singing this song to the audience about how he loves everybody. And then he would hold the last note for ages, and then he would turn in a circle. It was like his party piece. In fact, I'll drop in a bit. I managed to catch the end of that, so I'll drop it in here. There you go. And then, of course, Margie Newton, who was the star of Hell of the Living Dead, which is a film I know you have a great fondness for.
I don't know that you're accurately portraying my feelings about that film, but okay. Yeah.
I had to be honest, I'd never seen it. I don't think I have. So I sat with her.
Oh, you kind of must.
Yeah, I know. Well, I've bought it now, obviously.
Yeah.
Because I was sitting next to her. I had to buy it and get her to sign it for me. Luckily, they were selling the all the stuff. So I bought that. I also bought House on the Cemetery and got that signed.
Well, when you watch Hell of the Living Dead, you will see quite a bit of your new friend Margie. So.
I know. And it was talked about, believe me. People kept wanting to ask her questions about it. And there was a good story that when she filmed the naked running through the woods scene, loads of people, locals, had found out, and they were hiding up the trees trying to get a glimpse. And she refused to do it till the assistant directors had managed to get rid of everybody. But yeah, so I ended up becoming Margie Newton's translator for the weekend. I've never had to speak so much Italian under that much pressure before. It was really fun, but it was kind of scary.
I guess so.
And what was funny, they had got hold of a couple of real Italian speakers to help out over the weekend, but they were kind of floating around, and talking to everybody.
Yeah.
So I was just with Margie, and Margie, initially she was a little bit miffed, I think, that I was the translator they'd given her, and my Italian is, Duolingo level Italian.
Yeah.
But it turned out I managed. So people would come up and ask her questions, and then she'd turn to me to translate, and I'd have to work out how to say, what was it like when you ran through the woods naked? In my limited Italian. But we got through it. So I'm going to play a clip for you here. So I did manage to get a little clip of Margie talking about her experience that weekend. Yeah, I just... what do you think of this weekend in your experience here?
I'm enthusiasta.
Yeah.
Enthusiasta from this weekend. I love the people here. Very kind, very beautiful people. Mm-hmm. And I see the organization is beautiful, very, very good, very a big convention. Mm. I did not so. It is the first time that I go on a convention, and so for me it's a surprise. Many people, many success. I did not that I have so much fans here, and so I'm very happy.
Good.
Yeah.
And what do you think of your assistant, Adrian Smith?
My assistant is the best for all. The best assistant. Oh. He translates in Italian perfect.
Oh, yes. Grazie.
No, very, very nice. Okay. I'm very happy that the organization gives me my assistance.
Grazie. Thank you. And there you go.
Well, her English is much better than your Italian, I suspect.
Absolutely, it was a good job. But so, but it was really fun to get to know her and talk to her about her movies. And yeah, we basically just, when I wasn't sitting with her, I was running errands for her, getting her food, getting her coffee. I was also getting coffee for other people. I had to get 2 cups of tea for Sergio Martino and his wife. And I had to, at one point, I was just basically running errands all over the place. It was really fun. They had these posters for the convention, and they gave all the guests a copy of the poster, and then they were all going around getting each other to sign them.
Uh-huh.
But of course, Katrina McCall was just too busy. So I said to her, "Oh, I'll do that for you." So I ended up going down the line for her with her copy of the poster to get it all signed. So that was fun. So yeah, I was just being super helpful. And then after the first day, I ended up giving Giretta and Eugenio a lift back to the hotel, which was about 15 miles away. And she spent the whole journey telling us exactly what she thinks about Donald Trump. And she is fun. She is high energy, Giretta. She was, yeah.
Every interview I've ever seen with her, she seems. I mean, I don't know if she has an on and off switch, but she always seems on in every interview I've ever seen. Yeah,
she really was. So she was really hungry because she'd missed the lunch. I ended up buying her a Twix, and getting her double vodka. Yeah, I was like a good little boy running around.
Vodka and a candy bar.
Yeah, that is what I got her. That's what she wanted.
Well, I mean, I can't argue with what she wants. Go for it, yeah.
And it was so cool to meet somebody like Fred Williamson, obviously.
Oh God, I would love to meet Fred Williamson. What a legend! Yeah.
And I mean, I imagine for some of these guys, it must be getting to be their last events. Enzo Castellari was looking pretty wobbly. I mean, he's 87 as well.
Yeah, he's way. Yeah, I was about to say. I thought he was in his early 80s, but yeah, late 80s.
I think it might just be his last event. Whereas Sergio Martino, he's also in his late 80s. He looked pretty good.
Yeah, but I don't know. There's something about Sergio Martino. He seems pretty spry every time I've seen him in the past 10 years. Yeah.
And Howard Ross, though, I mean, I know everyone's probably. I mean, people were mainly there because of New York Ripper. That was the stuff he was signing. But I've got a big Peplum poster from a Peplum film he's in that he signed for me. And I just watched quite recently the film where he plays Machiste. So for me, it was so cool to meet him. And then I ended up sitting next to him for dinner. And we were, he was asking me what I was going to have. I was asking what he was going to have. And then he was telling me about the time when he was in the Mr. Universe competition. And oh man. So I feel very lucky to have had such a behind the scenes convention experience. Plus autographs were at least 20 quid each. And so I've probably come away with about 500 quid's worth of autographs or something. The amount of stuff I ended up coming away with. So all for free. So that's what you do, folks. Become a volunteer at a convention and you get all the perks.
And you get to actually talk to those people that you're interested in talking to at length all the time. Yeah.
Oh, it was really cool. And they were just so nice, really friendly. Yeah, it was dead good. Anyway, so I just wanted to give a quick report back on that. We'd better get on. Move on to our movie.
This convention update brought to you by Wild Wild Podcast.
Yep. And there's a convention in Italy in September called Cinema Record, which is also Demons themed. Ooh. And Claudio Simonetti is going to, and a whole bunch of other people. And that one, I've been looking it up. They have loads of great guests. And that one is free to enter, and autographs are free.
Holy crap.
And they have loads of, I know. It's in a place called Bergamo. I would love to go to that. I've been having a look at it on Facebook today, but I can't afford to fly off to Italy for a weekend to get autographs. Not when I've just had a weekend in Worcester getting autographs. But anyway. So, anyway. Right, moving on. Today's film goes by many names.
Yes, far too many names, I would say.
Some may know it as the Invincible Cavaliere. Hang on, let's start again. L'Invincible Cavaliere Mascherato. the Invincible Masked Cavalier. If you were German, you would know it as Robin Hood in der Stadt des Todes, which I believe means Robin Hood on the Road of Death. In Greece, it was known as a Zorro movie.
Yeah.
And in America, it was known as two different things. It could be Terror of the Black Mask,
right,
or the Invincible Masked Rider. Cue the music that sounds like it's straight from a spaghetti western. Doesn't it?
It does. Not that that's a detriment, but still, it is.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
And the plot is very much like a Western, but it is also very much like a Zorro movie.
Well, there's a reason for that. This, it is clearly an adaptation of the Zorro myth, the Zorro story. I wouldn't say myth. It was actually a novel by a guy named Johnston McCulley. Good novel, too, by the way, if you're interested in early 1900s pulp novels. But that's where the Zorro story comes from. And this is as close to being a Zorro movie as you can be, just set in a slightly different time period and on a different continent.
It's as close as you can get without having to buy the rights.
There is that. Yes. We really want to tell this story. We want to put it in Spain. And we want to not pay anybody anything. So that's what they do.
What amused me as well is this is an Italian-French co-production set in Spain.
Yes.
And the version that we were watching had the German titles. So the Robin Hood. And then the subtitles appear to be an English translation of the German.
Yes,
because every time
and the subtitles aren't great. I want to go out and explain that trying to find this movie in English is not going to be your easiest hunt.
And every time they called him the musketeer or the cavalier, every time they're calling him the cavalier in Italian, on the screen in English it calls him Robin Hood. And I just kept thinking, because Robin Hood was famous for using a rapier and wearing a mask. That's what he was known for, right?
Precisely. That's exactly what he was always famous for. I think
he wore
it's always
black and he fought with a sword.
I think it's hilarious. Yeah. You keep looking around, going, "Well, where the hell are the merry men?" But the desire to turn this into a Robin Hood film in the mid '60s. I mean, there were a few Robin Hood movies that were being made and doing pretty decent box office. That's the only thing that I can imagine.
Yeah, but presumably they were really big in Germany, I guess.
But at the same time, I've always referred to this as the Invincible Masked Rider. Invincible Masked Rider. Invisible Masked Rider is a whole different thing. I think.
Well, that would make just as much sense if they'd have called it that, because there are moments in the film where it does appear that he has the power of invisibility.
He's definitely, there's that one sequence where he's messing with a particular villainous character, and he's attempting to appear ghost-like. That is really, well, it's wonderfully photographed and very creepy, but at the same time it's like, what, did he walk through a wall there? What happened?
I also wondered why he was called the Invincible Masked Rider, because at no point is that put to the test.
No.
Do you know what I mean?
I mean, he does win. He does win.
He wins the fight, but it doesn't mean he's invincible. At no point is he stabbed through the chest and then just goes, ha, 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 or anything like that, you know.
Well, I wonder if maybe the idea was to call it the Masked Rider, but that would have been. I mean, maybe there was a film that was somewhat.
Well,
close to that.
we've had the Terror of the Red Mask, haven't we?
Yeah,
the year before.
Well, so this is the Terror of the Black Mask. If you're if you're in certain countries anyway.
And I like the he looks like a shadow. Everything's entirely black, and it looks like they've used some velvet in there because it doesn't even reflect the light. So it's almost like when he's on the screen, there's no light anywhere on him. It's just a shadow, which is quite cool.
I know. And the of course that's a brilliant thing to do because it allows you to substitute a stunt actor anytime you feel like it without it ever showing up on screen. But but at the same time, the actor playing the character, Pierre Brice, the French actor, he's quite good at this stuff, full stop. So, you know, obviously you're going to substitute a stuntman when he's in costume whenever you have to. But in this case, the actor was very capable of pulling off some of this stuff with his face uncovered at times, and that sells it as well.
Yeah. So, yeah, this is a fun one. The director is, at this point, a relatively young Umberto Lenzi.
Yes, indeed.
Somebody we have mentioned once or twice before.
A few times. As with most people our age or younger even, when you're thinking about Umberto Lenzi, most people come to his films through the gore-drenched stuff like Eaten Alive and the cannibal stuff. And maybe the cop action films that he made in the 70s. But he did get his start making these kinds of movies in the 60s, and he made quite a number of them, and I've loved every one of them I've been able to see.
Yeah.
Is this the first time with this movie that you've seen any of these period dramas that he made in the 60s?
Good question. Let me see what else there is I don't think I've seen any of his. Other than that, the earliest film I'd seen was Criminal.
Okay.
So I don't think I haven't seen any of his Eurospy films either.
Oh wow, really? There's some good stuff in there. There really, really is. That's what really shocked me when I started getting into the 60s output from Umberto Lenzi, is that I kept expecting them to be, you know, slapdash or not as good as some of the other things from the period. And every time I would see one, I was just kind of stunned. I mean, I saw Sandokan the Great, and I was impressed. I was like, oh my God, this is really good. And then I saw 008 Operation Exterminate, and that was a fun Eurospy film.
Yeah.
Super 7 Calling Cairo was good. The Spy Who Loved Flowers. By that time, I was thinking, okay, so Umberto Lenzi was just good at this stuff, full stop.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, he was one of these guys, like so many that we talk about, just going from Filoni to Filoni, genre to genre, whatever was commercially required, churning them out at the peak of the Italian film industry, where it was a proper production line, and he was very good at it. Yeah, I've got my my recorder today is propped up on my Houses of Doom box set. Which again just showing how versatile he was. Still making movies 20 years after this one.
Well, understand he did make a Robin Hood film, a proper Robin Hood film in 1962. It's called The Triumph of Robin Hood, and it's pretty darn good as well. And so there's this thing in my head where I want to ask the question about whether or not the possible success of The Triumph of Robin Hood played a part in, you know, them trying to pretend that this Urzet Zorro film was somehow a Robin Hood movie as well, but I don't know.
Yeah, and then because there are actually some Zorro peplums, aren't there? Doesn't like Zorro meet Chiste at one point?
As a matter of fact, I kind of supposed sequel to this film that we're talking about today, became a, you know, Zorro mixed with peplum kind of thing.
Yeah. Shall we talk a little bit about the cast?
Oh, we should. Yes.
Yeah, there's a few interesting people in here. So we've got a character who's basically the villain of the piece, Don Luis,
Yes.
who owns the castle where this is all set, played by the actor Daniel Vargas, who was Italian and has 100 credits according to the IMDb. I've not been able to find much actual personal information, but just in terms of the films that he was in, a very extensive career. His first movie was Hercules Unchained, which is quite a good start, I would say.
Well, he's I have to say, once I started looking at his list of credits, I realized that I remembered his face from lots of movies. First of all,
Yes.
He was in Kaltiki, the Immortal Monster, which is just the Ricardo Freire Mario Bava film, which is an early piece from him. But the stuff that I knew I had seen him in, as soon as I started poking around his list of accomplishments, that long list, is he's a face that has popped up in like Cemetery Without Crosses.
Yeah.
And once you get a sense of what he looks like, I was able to remember him from a couple of different things, and it was a real shock. Zambo, King of the Jungle, The Arena, the Pam Grier film. I think of it as a Pam Grier film as well.
Yeah.
He was in Eyeball once again.
Eyeball, of course.
We're working once again with our beloved director here.
He's in The Sensuous Nurse, that Ursula Andress film that's got a following. He did a lot of those kind of sex comedies as well, like they all did. There's one that I'm always kind of amused. I've never seen them, but the titles are great for some of these. There's one in 1979 called "And Give Us Our Daily Sex."
I saw that one too. The artwork for that, the poster artwork is amazing. But what's weird, and this is something that has only happened in the past few months, is he's in an episode of that brief TV series, The Return of the Saint. He's in an episode of that, and I'm beginning to think that Return of the Saint may be, because so much of it was shot in all around Europe, it may be a place where just a lot of these actors ended up getting just a brief role in a single episode. It might be fun to just go through that whole series and see who all's faces you can spot and recognize.
He also did another one. I've talked about this before. All those family sex comedies of the 70s where there's like a lot of implied incest and stuff. He's in one of those called La Nipote, which basically means the niece, about a beautiful and orphaned young woman who comes to spend the summer at her uncle's villa, and then discovers that everyone's just really horny, and he plays the uncle, of course. So
see, my desire is to focus in on all the peplums that he was involved in the 60s. And you jump straight to the 70s sleaze.
Well, just they have a lot to say about Italian society at the time.
Yes, I'm sure
Your Honor.
Your Honor. Let us not put each other on trial. Neither of us will come out smelling like a rose.
No. But yeah, he did loads of those, like Thief of Baghdad, Sodom and Gomorrah, which is a really epic movie. Yeah, loads of that stuff. Yeah, he seems like a cool guy. He's very good in this. He's got that classic, I'm a villain, so I must laugh all the time, even though nothing funny is happening vibe.
He plays a villain well. I mean, I hate to say it, but his face lends itself easily to that. He's almost, you've almost done half the work when you cast this guy as your bad guy.
Yeah. And then he is joined by, there's three main people in the cast. So there's a girl called Carmencita, played by the French actress Helene Chanel.
Yes. And
she has a relatively small career, 60s and 70s. Although she was French, she seems to have done most of her films in Italy. And again, a few things that are notable, and then loads of things I've never heard of.
Oh, well, you definitely heard of The Witch's Curse.
Maciste all'Inferno.
Yeah, just an amazing film. Yeah. It's one of those that even people who have seen like 3 peplum films in their entire lives, if they ever catch The Witch's Curse, trust me, they'll probably watch more. It's a Ricardo Freire film, and it is kind of fascinating.
Yeah, she's also in one of the many adaptations of The Nun of Monza.
Yep.
She's in the original 1962 La Monarca di Monza, that was the film that inspired the Toto comedy La Monaco di Monza, which was then where they shot Castle of Blood on the set.
Ah, yes, the threads we can follow.
Exactly. Yeah, and then she's done a few comedies, westerns. She's also in the film that I mentioned before with Howard Ross, Ercole Sansone Maciste Eusus Gli Invincibili, or the Invincibles. And that's the one where it's like a big team up. It's like, what's that film? Seven Samurai. It's the Peplum version of Seven Samurai. And Howard Ross plays Maciste. And there's a really funny big like bar fight between him and Ursus. And they just completely destroy this bar and smash it to bits while they're fighting with each other. That's quite good fun. Anyway, so there's her. I don't know anything much about her though.
Well, she stayed in the film industry until roughly 1976 or 77, and then retired. She devoted herself to her family at that point. She started working apparently with her husband in the tourism industry, although I can't nail down exactly what she was doing, but that's apparently what she did after she decided that the acting thing had dried up.
And then last missing piece of the puzzle is Don Diego.
Yes.
Played by another French actor, Pierre Brice.
Well, in my extensive research, my understanding is that in general, and his name is pronounced Brice, which took me forever to nail down.
Brice, sorry, yes.
Well,
right.
that's just it. If you look at how his name was originally spelled, it's just Bris.
Okay.
Which which for French definitely is Brice, but it's hard to bend my brain around that when I called him Bryce forever. So.
Thank you for the correction. Now, he was French. This film was made in Italy, but he is mainly known for his work in German films and German television. And there's one particular character that he played about 50 times.
Ah, yes. The Great Winnetou, the character created by German writer Karl May.
Yeah. Do you want to, if anyone, including me, has never seen a Winnetou film, can you give us a brief rundown of those?
Well, a rundown of them. There's so many. Essentially, Winnetou is a kind of amazing character, much like. Okay, well, he starts out on the page. He's a Native American leader of a tribe of Indians, and he's a hero in every way. There's almost nothing that Winnetou does that would ever be something that you would think of as compromising. He's a hero. He has a lot of friends that he picks up along the way, including characters referred to as Old Shatterhand or Old Firehand. And when they started making films out of these novels, they cast him, and when I first saw Winnetou films, I have to admit, the German westerns are a very different flavor from Italian westerns. That's something that really throws a lot of people off. Where Italian westerns. They filmed them in Germany.
They filmed them in Yugoslavia, didn't they?
Germany and Yugoslavia, in these rolling hills and these mountains, and it's beautiful, and it does look a good deal like certain parts of the American countryside, given that But the thing is, Italian westerns, they're gritty, they're sweaty, they're you can almost feel the heat rolling off of the screen when you're watching those things. And that's what those films were going for. Whereas the German westerns, you never feel like there's some oppressive heat or anything. It always feels like you're in a bucolic setting. It's a really beautiful location where these things are set. A lot of greenery. The tone is the big difference, though. Whereas most people who love Italian westerns love them because of the brutality and the plot twists and all this. The German westerns, especially the Winnetou films, all the Karl May stuff, really feel a lot more connected to the kinds of westerns that were being churned out in Hollywood in the 50s. Beautiful looking, kind of epic in look, if not necessarily in story. And so the Winnetou movies, and there were a lot of them. You got to understand, it was they were incredibly popular. He became known. Pierre Brice became so identifiable with that character that there are people for decades who they would see him on the street somewhere in Europe and immediately know, that's Winnetou, that's Winnetou, that's Winnetou.
Yeah.
And so the career that Pierre Brice had was fantastic, built by those films, but he was in a lot of other great stuff as well. I mean, he was in Mill of the Stone Women in 1960, which is well worth people paying attention to if you've not heard of it, although I'm sure most people listening to this show probably have.
I would hope so.
But if you want to get into the Winnetou films, the easiest path through is probably to just go ahead and start with Treasure of the Silver Lake from 1962.
So that's the one that he did before our movie today.
Yeah.
And then sort of immediately after our film, he went on to do loads more.
Well, and he also did the kind of sequel that Lenzi also directed called Samson and the Slave Girl.
Where he did play Zorro, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, exactly. He's kind of playing the same character, but they're calling him Zorro outright. And it's really weird. And apparently Umberto Lenzi wasn't really thrilled with the idea of actually trying to mix, Greek muscle men with a character from the American Southwest. Seemed really odd to him. But they did it anyway, because of course they did. Yep. But the Winnetou films are well worth your time. Just know that you're not going into, the good, the bad, and the ugly. These are a very different thing. But Pierre Brice's career was wonderful. He made some really interesting movies in the 70s as well. I'm sure you're going to want to concentrate on things like Sex Pot.
I hadn't even noticed.
Oh, yeah, 1975 Italian comedy. I was just thought I'd get out in front of it before you brought it up.
Well, I mean, more importantly, he was in the German sci-fi TV show Star Maidens.
Oh, yeah. I've never seen any of that. Is that worth seeing?
I've never seen it either, but I know it's got a cult following. It's one of those things I keep toying with buying the DVD, and then I never did.
I'm curious about it. I would like to see an episode just to get a taste of it.
He had a recurring character in that one, so an interesting guy. The interest with Winnetou, I noticed the other day. I was rewatching part of Inglourious Bastards, the bit when the Germans are in the basement, beer cellar.
They're playing the card game,
playing that game with names on their foreheads, and one of them was Winnetou. And then another one was Edgar Wallace, which pleased me immensely. So there you go.
Very popular writers even during that period, yes.
Yeah. So anyway, there you go. So those are our three main casts. We'd better get on with the film, or we're going to be here all night.
I'm beginning to think that people, you can now officially stop hitting the 10 seconds forward thing. I swear.
Unless there's anyone else in the cast you wanted to mention, but I'm pretty unfamiliar with most of them, to be honest.
I was unfamiliar with a number of them. There is one actor whose face kind of stood out because I'd seen him in a number of other films as well. He plays the, I guess you would call him kind of secondary good guy. The one who lives there in the village. He would almost be the secondary good guy if the movie had any time or space for the character to be something other than just someone who has a few lines to move things along. Romano Gianni, I'm probably mispronouncing his name hideously.
Yeah, that sounds about right. He plays a character called Marilio. Marilio.
And I'd seen him in a number of things, of course, during this period of time, doing a lot of Peplum. What a shock! But I'd seen him in a few other films because he had a fairly long career. But it was his face was memorable enough that when I would see him in something, it's like there's something about that. Not as memorable as Daniel Vargas, but still somebody you can take note of because you're probably going to see him again. And also Don Rodrigo, Massimo Cerrato.
He's like the right-hand man of Don Luis, isn't he?
Right. He's the first of the bad guys to reach a pointy end of a sword, or pointy end of a rapier, I should say, from our Invincible Masked Rider as he starts winnowing down the bad guys. And he was in a lot of movies, man. We saw him in The Humanoid, and he was in Convoy Busters, and
people might know him from Don't Look Now as well.
That's true.
Yeah,
but just a familiar face to those of us who obsessively watch the European films from this period.
Bloodstained Shadow, loads of good stuff. Sartana, he's in some of those.
He was in Wild Wild Planet too. Can't get away from it.
And The 10th Victim. Very cool. Yeah, so just busy people, aren't they? They were just going from film to film to film. Oh, wait a minute. He was in the D'Artagnan film we watched, wasn't he?
Oh, was he? He may have been, you're right.
Yeah, didn't he play...
He was the Secret Mark. He played Richelieu.
He was Richelieu. Yeah, the Secret Mark of D'Artagnan.
They're everywhere, man.
As I like to think of it, yeah.
Once you start seeing these folks, they're everywhere.
So this film got a release in Italy. It got a UK release at the cinema. It did not get a cinema release in America, however. Although it's a good one, possibly just because there were too many, and so it didn't get picked up.
Yeah,
but it did show up on...
It went straight to television here in the States.
Yeah, TV in 1967. But it was on in the cinemas in the UK in 1963, distributed by Golden Era, who were one of the sort of small independent distributors that I love talking about so much. Anyway, so because of that, there is a review in Monthly Film Bulletin, so that gives us a nice plot summary to use. And also, Troy Howarth talks about it, obviously, in his Umberto Lenzi book, where he says, actually, I'll tell you what he says. He says it stands out as one of Lenzi's most exciting and beautifully photographed pictures.
Which, of course, is my opening to say flat out that this is another film that we really need a good Blu-ray of.
Well, I've put in my pitch to imprint, so you never know, for a Tales of Adventure box set.
Please. Although I have to admit, after we said that, I took note of the fact that so far all those Tales of Adventure sets that they've put out have all been American films, which is distressing.
Well, there's some British, at least one British.
Well, at least co-productions. I mean,
Devil Girl from Mars was definitely British, but yes, they're all English films, in English rather than. But you never know.
I would hope, like I say, this in a way, this whole season of Rapiers and Ruffles that we've been doing for all of this calendar year has been a plea to people to pay attention to this genre and hopefully get some more attention, because these movies are wonderful. And I think just being, and this is another example. I was pleased when you were watching the film and you sent me a message saying that you're loving the movie, and I was like, well, it's very much in keeping with this whole season so far.
Exactly.
They're incredibly entertaining movies.
Very colourful, apart from the the fact that the main guy is all in black, but very colourful, very beautifully photographed, amazing, lavish costumes.
Yes.
It
mostly looks very expensive, but apparently it was not that expensive.
Well, I'm assuming it's just all shot in a real castle, so they just had all that production value up there on the walls, I imagine.
And I'm guessing at that time the rental of all of the costuming for the dozens and dozens and dozens of characters. I mean, there is at one point during that party scene at least 36 plus characters on screen.
There's just a massive wardrobe at Cinecittà that they could just borrow those from. So it's probably, that's the benefit of the production line system, of course, with these films, is that they can make them look $1 million, but they're just using stuff they've already got, which is pretty good. Anyway, so let's go with the plot summary. The Black Plague strikes the Higuera district of Spain in 1670, and leaving the luckless peasants to their fate, nobleman Don Luis, that is our guy, what's his name? Daniel Vargas. Don Luis takes refuge in his castle. So straight away here we've got parallels. Well, in all the reviews I've read, contemporary and mainly contemporary, they're all relating it to Mask of the Red Death,
and there's a good reason,
which
for
is
that.
true. Which I think is fair enough. There's definitely similarities, particularly at the end of the film. But I would also argue that it also mirrors the Decameron, which goes way back to like I can't remember, when was the Decameron from? 1200s, 1100s? Because the Decameron was stories being told by noble people, noblemen, noblewomen, who were holed up in a castle whilst the plague was going on outside. So it's kind of got. So I thought that was interesting here, that it's got its roots in potentially in the Decameron as well as Mask of the Red Death. This is
they're already stealing the Zorro story, so why not just pile on whatever?
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly. So it says here. So let's go on. He has plans to gain the wealth of Carmencita, daughter of Don Gomez, a rich government official. Now, let's just pause a moment there, because this is for me, one of the funniest bits of the film. When Don Gomez arrives with his daughter, Carmencita, and he's got this beautiful dog, I don't know what it is, a Pomeranian or something. And he says to Don Luis, how would you like to unite our two houses? And Don Luis is like looking at this beautiful Carmencita. He says, it would be such an honor.
Yes, you know exactly what I'm thinking. Is, well, here's what I want you to do. I want you to take care of my dog.
Yeah, he wants his dog to breed with one of Don Luis's dogs. And then he looks so crushed. He's like, oh yes, of course. I knew that's what you meant.
Of course, yeah, sure.
It was very funny. Now, I don't know about you, Rod, but for the rest of the film, all I kept thinking of was, where's the dog?
Oh, I know that the dog is. I thought gone. That the dog would become. The first time I saw the movie, I thought the dog was going to become some kind of, I don't know, something to be held over Carmencita's head later on.
But at the very least, you'd see her stroking it again or something. It's just gone.
It's gone. That's just something that's put at the beginning of the film to give us a sense of the sense of humor of this film and the dynamic between the two characters, which is good, I guess, except that poor Don Gomez is gone pretty quick.
Yeah. So it's basically instead of Chekhov's gun, it's like Chekhov's dog. You introduce a dog in the first act. We want to see it again in the final act.
Yeah, we want to see it explode in the third act, but it doesn't. Yeah. It's nowhere around.
Or bite somebody or something.
It should go off, quote unquote, go off, yes.
Yeah, when Carmencita leaves at the end, if that's what she does, I don't want to give it away, but you assume that she's going to take the dog with her, as it would remind her of her father. But no, it's just never mentioned again. It's just gone out of the film and out of her life. So Carmencita and Don Gomez are then traveling to go and visit somewhere. I can't remember where they're going.
I can't either.
But they're attacked by brigands.
Well, we know that they're not actually brigands. Yeah. They've been sent out by Don Luis to do away with Carmencita's father. We see the folks mask up to go do this, and actually, and go out of their way to say, remember, don't touch the girl, don't touch her at all. They're henchmen of Don Luis, acting under his orders, because Don Luis plans to marry Carmencita to his nephew, Don Diego. Uh-huh. Although he sort of hints at the fact that he's going to get her to marry Don Diego, then he's going to kill Don Diego and marry her himself, right? Oh yeah, it's not a hint. He spells it out. And by the way,
he's such a sleaze.
Is Don Diego his stepson or his nephew?
Well, okay, so in this plot summary it says nephew. In another review I read, it said adopted son. In the subtitles we watched, it said stepson.
Right. So at some point or another, they're related. And his idea is to get her married into the family and then off the younger guy so that
he wants Don Gomez's money that she will inherit, or has inherited, presumably.
And if he can get the girl himself, hey, what the heck?
because he's making her stay at the castle, isn't he?
Yeah.
Under the guise that
He's
Don
protecting
Gomez
her.
would want him to protect her, and also the plague is not that far away, and so
Yeah,
you've
the
got to
plague
protect
is
her from that.
ravaging the countryside, and it's not good. Not a good idea to be out and about with the peasants.
Yeah. So he summoned Don Diego, who is played, of course, by a guy, what was his
Pierre
name?
Brice.
Pierre Brice. And he's a bit of a kind of, how would you describe him? He's quite louche. He's not particularly
Foppish.
brave. Yeah, fop, that's the word. Yeah, he's a rich boy who doesn't appear to really be up to very much. Although he seems relatively normal compared to Don Luis.
Well, he's not actively evil, but he's
No.
also clearly a fop, someone who
Yeah.
is at best a coward and at worst someone who'd sell you out if he could save his own skin.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Don Luis soon hears rumours of a mysterious masked figure, a heroic champion of the oppressed peasantry, whose daring exploits entail picking off one by one the evil henchmen of Don Luis. So we don't actually see the masked Avenger, whatever we're calling him, Masked Rider, until about halfway through the film.
No. We see him in the first sequence of the movie. He's not named at that point. We don't know
Yeah.
who he is and what he's doing
And then he kind of disappears again for quite a while.
for a
and then
while, so we can
comes back.
get lots of story and plot. And at that point, the point at which Pierre Brice shows up playing Don Diego, that's 30 minutes into the movie.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah, so we should mention the peasantry. So because Don Luis has locked up the castle, they all decide they're going to storm the castle to, because this isn't in the description, they want to get in there as well to keep themselves safe from the plague.
Right.
So Don Luis instead just shoots a load of them and then kidnaps all the women, claiming that it's to keep them safe, but really it's just to make them his slaves.
Well, it's definitely to keep the men entertained, if you know what I mean.
Yes. So then you've got all the men outside and all the wives inside. And good swordsmen, though Don Luis's henchmen are, and some of them are really evil.
Yeah, some of them are sleazebags.
Yeah, they're no match for the masked stranger. Yeah, I want to give a shout out to Tabuka, who he's African, and it's referenced a few times that he's African, and that he might be. They play on the idea that because he's African, he's superstitious.
Oh, I know. And there's a part of me that
There
there's
might
more.
be a ghost or something.
Yeah, there's more than a little bit of racism in there a couple of times too. I mean, directly.
Yeah.
I mean, directly at him too, which I thought this is going to sound weird. So let me say it, and then I wanna explain myself. It was refreshing.
Oh, I see.
It was refreshing to have the kind of normal period racism you would expect to be acknowledged and be there, but at the same time, the character is not built in such a way to be made fun of.
No,
So
he's a badass.
yeah, he really is, until that that superstition that they've alluded to earlier gets used against him by our hero in a fabulous sequence. Yeah,
Tabuka is probably the worst one, actually.
he's pretty.
Of the henchmen, he's
I
horrible.
don't know, man.
He's
There's some pretty.
reprehensible.
Don Rodrigo, he's a pretty nasty scumbag. So
Well, yeah, but when they attack Carmencita and her dad, one of the coachmen has survived, and so Tabuka just stabs him
oh, I know, yeah,
because he doesn't. He's like, no witnesses, just straight through.
kill it.
He's got no compunction at all, just straight through.
Well, the thing is, the actor who's playing Tabuka, Carlo Latimer,
Yeah,
he was also a stuntman. So he's only credited in a few films like Hercules Against the Sons of the Sun, which is a retitling of a Hercules film, and another couple of Machiste films. But I think that he's probably hiding in plain sight in a few places.
Oh yeah,
because
I would
he was
imagine so.
he was a stuntman as well. So
yeah.
be aware that he's only listed as being in 10 films as an actor, but I suspect he was in a lot more movies than that.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. There are some good fights and good stunts in this film.
The action sequences that first moment in the pub or the tavern where the men the Don's men show up and are going to just start killing people if they don't tell them where they can find the masked man. And
and he swings in in classic style from the balcony,
and then just starts killing folks. It's amazing.
Yeah. It's very good. I don't want to give too much more away because this is so obscure. People probably haven't seen it.
It is obscure, and it's really entertaining. It's so much fun. Yeah. It is so packed with plot. It's just there's so much story going on.
Because as well as the Masked Rider picking off all the henchmen, he's also making quite good friends with Carmencita.
Yes.
And so there's a kind of subplot where maybe she's falling in love with this mysterious stranger.
Whose face she never sees, which of course, once again is very much the Zorro story. It's very entertaining. The scenes between the two of them, as they, I guess you could say, flirt back and forth, are great. Those are fun scenes as well. And the action scenes are where this movie lives and dies, and the action scenes are a blast. So it's another in this genre that I wither thinking about how few people have seen these movies. They need a bigger audience.
Yeah. So I didn't look because you sent me the copy of this one, but is this one on YouTube?
No, not to the best of my knowledge. No, the version that we have with the not so great English subtitles, those are fan subs. Those were done by someone who took it upon themselves to provide subtitles for the movie. So the fact that is still the only version of the film that I can find out there that is somewhat English friendly. Like I say, this movie was sold to be shown on American television, so I can't even find that. So no. I don't know.
Yeah, and it says here in the monthly film bulletin review that it was dubbed into English, so there is an English dub out there somewhere. Yeah, and it's a shame because obviously this is, Umberto Lenzi is such a popular director. It seems, it's the same with Lucio Fulci, that his early films are pretty obscure and hard to see.
Which is strange when you know how so many of them are very good. Yeah,
and it's amazing that this isn't more easily available. I don't think I'm going to say any more, except we did mention this. The finale builds up to a big masked ball, and they go hard on the masks. They're like massive masks. It's really funny. And obviously having a masked rider in a masked ball is a pretty good move, I think.
Oh, yeah, I think so.
It's very exciting and there's some good twists and double twists and some good comedy moments. There's the sort of obligatory torture scene in a dungeon,
which was a little harsher than I expected it to be.
Yeah,
it's the one sequence in the movie where you can kind of, if you're coming to this with your main knowledge of Lenzi's movies being the more grotesque stuff from the 70s and 80s, it's like, well, here's some of the beginnings of that, where we have this hot iron that is very clearly actually a hot iron. Did you notice that they went out of their way to
picks it out of the fire,
pulls it out of the fire, touches it to a rope that catches it on fire, and then of course off camera they keep it below the frame of the shot, shove it into the man's flesh. It's one of those things where you're just thinking, wow, that's going a bit further in 63 than I would have expected them to go.
And quite brave for all the people involved with that, because if he dropped it,
when
he's burning the rope over that guy's head.
If you're the actor tied up going through this, it's like you got to be really trusting.
Yeah. Make sure you've got a good grip on that thing. But it helps to build for the audience just how evil Don Luis is, so that obviously we're then waiting for him to get his inevitable comeuppance.
Yeah.
So the review, I'll read you what they said. After borrowing slavishly from the costume and exploits of Zorro, the exceedingly uninventive script pads stolidly through the routine of heavy-handed villainy from a power-hungry despot, dining table orgy and court cabaret, and the usual meaningless laughter about nothing in particular to fill every awkward gap. Diners cannot even watch a terpsichorean display without chuckling away full strength. So that's the negative. The locations, set decoration, and delicate colour are most agreeable, however, and the fencing scenes are quite effectively staged. I think that's, yeah, I'd agree.
I'm much more a fan of the film than they are, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, the trouble is obviously they were watching a dubbed version, so the script is probably going to sound a bit rubbish. I think watching it in Italian is going to be less of that, I would imagine. The dubbing always just makes it a bit worse, doesn't it?
Yeah, it definitely can. It's true.
Mm. But yeah, this is another good one, everybody. Do your best to track down a copy. I mean, it does exist because we have one, so it's not impossible.
It is possible to correctly align the special antenna and locate a copy of it. Yes.
Mm-hmm. That's it. Yeah, you haven't got to quite go onto the dark web to find this one.
No, you're not going to have to do anything too illegal, but yeah.
Yeah, so check it out. It's really fun. And another reference to sort of cavaliers, at least in the Italian, which was obviously the thing, because we've had so many films with cavaliers in it by this point.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, is this period of time when they're turning out so many of these movies, like I say, I could understand especially people at the time feeling like, my God, another one, where they're just being swamped by these things, where they're coming out, 2 a week for a period there. I can understand at a certain point you start to despair that, it's the same whining I've heard for the past decade about, another superhero movie. Well, it's always that way. It's just whatever people want to whine about that, right then, another Western, but at the same time, we get to look back and see these things as the amazing pieces of cinema. We get to actually look at them and judge them, far from the desire of the people who made it to build their career, make a pile of cash, whatever was on their minds, and just see what they are as artistic expression or just pure fun entertainment. And these are all, every single one, man, they're just pure fun entertainment. And there's a part of me that knows that when we're done with the 10 that we're going to cover, I'm going to want to try to think of, like, which one would I say to anyone coming to this genre? Which one would you start with, just because it will make you want to watch more of them? And so far, I can't pick. So far, they're all fun.
We'll work that out when we do our ranking episode.
Yes.
At the end. So I'm looking at the list. According to this, the next film actually is a Zorro film, a Zorro and the Three Musketeers. It's like bringing all things together into one.
And guess what? This film shares an actor, and of course it's directed by Luigi Capuano. Right, and it shares the actor Nerio Bernardini, who's in this film. He played Don Gomez, so he gets offed in the first act of this film. But he plays Cardinal Richelieu in our next movie.
Excellent. So after wondering how they could fit Zorro and Peplum guys together in this film, we've just got Zorro and the Musketeers. But why not?
Why not? I mean, thousands of miles distance, an entire ocean separates them. But why not?
So that'll be fun. So if you want to watch that one ahead of the next episode, it is available on YouTube dubbed in English. So quite an easy one to find. But that's it for today. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope you've enjoyed us talking about this one. I've certainly enjoyed watching it. If I was listening to these at home, maybe you could try and watch the film first and then listen.
That would be a good idea, if possible.
Either way, I hope you do get to see this movie because it's very good. So yeah, that's it. Thanks everybody for listening. Do tell your friends, share us on social media. You can use the link in the show notes to find our various social media things, or you could go to our store on TeePublic and buy a t-shirt. Incidentally, I should mention, Rod, that somebody came up to me while I was at the convention because I was wearing my Wild Wild Podcast T-shirt,
Ah.
in the hope that somebody would. I had at least one listener there, and we did. So if you're listening, hello, Richard. I'm hoping it was Richard. Came up to me. He was the guy who said we should watch Warrior of the Wasteland. Was it called?
Oh.
Way back when.
Yeah. Well, we did kind of an extra film that season.
Yeah. Donald Pleasance and I think Fred Williamson was in that one.
Oh yeah, I'm having trouble.
And that guy with the talking motorbike.
Yes,
Megatron or whatever it was called.
Hard to forget the talking motorcycle, for good or ill. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's so I've met one of our listeners in the flesh. So that was great, and that was because I was wearing the T-shirt. So hey, so if you too would like to meet fellow fans of cult Italian cinema, then grab one of our T-shirts. There's currently some kind of 40% off sale, I believe.
Yes.
So check it out. Also, don't forget we are part of the Film Stories network now. So if you would like to see what else they do, there just go to filmstories.co.uk and you can see the full list of podcasts. I've been schmoozing a bit with the network since we last recorded one. I've been a guest on 2 different film studies podcasts, neither of which are out yet. But one of them I was talking about the Final Destination films.
Cool.
And then the other one was the, what was it called? It's the Collector's Commentary, which is a podcast all about collecting Blu-rays. So I was on there to talk about extras that I've done and stuff like that. Mainly talking about Norman J. Warren, but I ended up just talking quite a lot about myself. It was like a therapy session. Which I imagine if you're collectors, as we all probably are, listening to that podcast must feel a lot like being amongst friends.
Well, or at least amongst people who are willing to tell you that your obsession isn't wrong.
Exactly.
You're okay.
Yeah, and who can relate to the ridiculous problems that collecting causes yourself.
Yeah.
So
we're not hoarders, damn it.
No, it's art. Anyway, so I was on that, so that'll come out at some point. I don't know when. But yeah, so lots of good podcasts on film stories. Do check them out. Rod, anything you want to plug before we go?
No, got a new episode of The Bloody Pit coming probably around the same time that you post this episode.
Okay.
It's going to be on a 1951 film called Unknown World. That's a very obscure 1950s science fiction film that Severin recently put out on Blu-ray. I talked with author David Annandale. He's a bigger fan of it than I am, but we took the opportunity to talk about this pretty hard to see. Well, it wasn't hard to see if you looked on YouTube, but it was hard to see well until Severin put out this Blu-ray, and we talk a good deal about the film itself.
Right.
And
is that out now then, the Blu-ray? Did that
come out? Yeah. That's definitely out. Yeah.
Okay, very good.
And a lot of extras. Stephen Bissett did a commentary track for the film, and there are several other extra features on that disc as well. Basically, for such an obscure 50s science fiction film that really has kind of stayed under the radar for even fans of the genre, they really did it up right. Severin did a great job on that disc.
Of course they would. They know what we like.
Yes, they do.
I actually, over the weekend, I listened to your Dead Man's Eyes episode.
Oh, thank you.
Enjoyed that one because I'm trying to watch whenever you do another one of those with all your Universal ones. I try to watch the film first if I can before I listen, and so I did. So it took me a couple of weeks to get around to watch